I've got a blank chucked up, and we're going to true it to approximately 12 millimeters. You don't have to be perfect, just get close to 12 millimeters. And verify that you have at least 60 millimeters of length for your blank. I've chucked up a 15/64" bit, and we're going to drill 48 millimeters into our blank. I've chucked up an O bit, and we're going to drill 10 millimeters into our blank. With an M 8.5 by 1 tap, we're going to go ahead and put some threads in our blank. I went to one of my Sierra pin kits and grabbed the front section, and we're going to take a quick measurement of the tenon, and it looks like it's right at about 11 millimeters. And if we look at the diameter, it's about 9.7 millimeters. I set my calipers for 11 millimeters, and we're going to mark our blank. I brought up my 60-degree live center for support, and we are going to turn a tenon on the end of this blank, just a little under 9.68 millimeters. My tenon has hit 9.74 millimeters. I need to go down below 9.68. I don't want to get too much more aggressive with the tool. So what we're going to do is remove the live center, and we're just going to use another blank as a straight edge with a piece of sandpaper. And we're going to come in and we're going to sand down to the final diameter. .965. That should be perfect. I grabbed a Sierra pin that I made a while back, and I removed the section, and we're just going to do a quick fit test. Fits very nicely, and it looks like the blank slides very smoothly inside of the body of the pin, and that's important because you're going to be retracting and ejecting your ink, so it needs to have smooth motion. I brought my Sierra section back over, and we're going to take a quick measurement. We're looking at about 64.3 millimeters. So we're going to cut this blank off at 65 millimeters. I've set my calipers for 65 millimeters, and we'll mark our blank. One thing that I don't want to do is crush my threaded tenon while I'm shaping my section. I drilled this hole with an O bit, and an O bit is roughly 8 millimeters. So I grabbed a scrap of material and I turned an 8 millimeter dowel that we're going to put into the back of our blank. I also grabbed a 13/32 spring chuck that will be perfect for holding it. We're going to get this chucked up and we'll start shaping our section. My blank is in the collet chuck, and I want to start off by squaring the end. I'm going to need to drill a 7/64" hole through my blank and into the larger cavity. This is where the ink refill will be ejected and retracted out of and into the blank. We're going to start by putting a dimple on the end of our blank with a starter bit. With our 7/64" bit chucked up, we're just going to go ahead and drill through the blank until we enter the cavity we made by the 15/64" bit earlier in the process. I brought up my 60-degree live center for support, but bear in mind I did not crank it into the blank. It is just barely kissing the end of this blank, because what we don't want to do is widen out that 7/64" hole, because we need it to stay that size to properly fit the ink refill. I've got my section again, and we're going to measure the end of the section, which looks to be right about 12 millimeters. So the end of the blank nearest the collet chuck, we're going to turn to 12 millimeters, and then we'll taper the blank down to a nice point to where it looks something like this. I have turned the section as far down as I want with the tools, and what I want to do now is some sanding. I can feel some tool marks in this blank, and we're going to take care of those. You'll notice a little gap between the blank and the collet chuck. I went ahead and loosened up the chuck and moved the blank out just a little bit so that I could sand right up to the end of the blank without interference of the chuck. I grabbed another blank that has a nice flat surface on it and a piece of 120 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to use this to begin the initial shaping of my blank. As I shape the blank, you'll quickly see the dusty areas. Those are the high areas, and the shiny areas are the low areas. So I've got quite a few tooling marks in this blank that we're going to need to level out. So we'll just work this piece of 120. Most likely I'll have to grab a second piece, and we will work the blank down until all the areas like those have disappeared. I'll continue sanding with this method until all of the low spots are gone, and then I'll sand by hand with the 200, 300, 400 grit sandpaper, and I'll come back and show it to you right before I micro mesh the blank. I just finished sanding my blank. There are no tool marks left, and it is super smooth from end to end. I'm ready now to go ahead and start micro meshing. Just going to work through all of the micro mesh pads, take my time, and make sure I eliminate any scratches that might be left in the blank from the sandpaper. I will come back and show this blank to you as soon as I'm done micro meshing. After micro meshing, the blank really shined up nicely. We're going to go ahead now and apply a little Renaissance wax. I like to apply Renaissance wax with my hand or just with my finger, and I'll continue to move back and forth on the blank until I feel the blank kind of pull at my finger. That means that the wax is starting to dry, and at that point we'll be ready to get out the buffing wheels and buff this section. I left the blank in the collet chuck so it'll be a little easier to hold because there's not much of a tenon to hold on to, and I'm afraid if I'm not careful I'll shoot this thing across the shop. I'm ready to begin assembly of our section. I took a standard Sierra spring and I cut it in half. I just didn't need a full spring. We'll go ahead and apply that to our ink refill. Put that into the section. Make sure we have no obstructions. Going to grab the transmission. Thread it on. Test it. Looks like my spring is sticking a little bit. Let's work that refill. That happens every now and again. There we go. There it is. It's starting to move a lot easier. I think you just need to work it a little bit. There we go. That's what we're looking for right there. Let's go ahead and we're just going to use this particular pin body. And there you can see we have a really nice section for our pin. Take a look. We've got a great transition between the body and the section. I really like how this section turned out. Now the next thing to do is to go ahead and turn a body from the same material so we have a matching pin. I really hope you enjoyed this video tonight. I had a fantastic time making this section. It has been on my pin turner's bucket list for a long time. I have wanted to make a section that would accept a common transmission, and finally doing it, I can tell you it is super satisfying. So I hope you take a look at this video, and I hope you consider purchasing the tools and making your own sections, because it really opens up a door to creativity when it comes to pins. By the way, all the tools that I used in this video will be listed in the description below. I'd like to thank you for joining the shop today. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again very soon, and have a wonderful evening.